So Throne and Liberty's been out for the better part of, I'd say, 3.5 months now, and after sinking 600 hours into the game as a new semi-hardcore PvP player in one of Europe's top guilds, I thought it'd be a good time to share my thoughts and my experience with this game so far. I'll talk about what I like, what I don't like, and what I want to see added or at least fixed in the future of the game. Because as fun and as addicting this game is, it is far from perfect and it's got quite a bit of cooking left to do before it could be like a mainstay game. I'll outline my journey so far with TNL so you can get somewhat of an understanding of my perspective. Then I'll get into the pros and cons. If you guys want to skip to that, feel free to. I'll add timestamps. Just to preface some stuff as well, this is my first time playing Throne and Liberty. I had no experience playing this game in Korea a year ago, or even looked at the game mechanics all that much before I started playing. I am also not a whale, for transparency's sake. I've spent £130 on Lucent, which was the gold and silver pack, plus I think the cheapest one, and £30 on early access. So that is a total of £160 that I've spent on this game. So not a whale by any means, but in that, just to show you guys, I do have a tevent wand. This was given to me by my guild. We dropped it just to, you know, let's see. Let me find it. Where are you? Come on. There we go. Guys, Tevent's Grasp of Withering, acquired by Faizan. It was given to me. I didn't buy my Tevent wand. So, like I said, I pretty much started TNL without really knowing anything about it, aside from the fact that it was a buggy autoplay piece of shit a year ago. From the open beta footage, you guys can Google it. There's a reaction by Nico Tulo, and it's fucking hilarious.
Hello guys, we're currently in the middle of playing Throne and Liberty, and as you can see, it's high action, impactful combat, and we're currently cheering on my character because I can't even do anything anyways, so we might as well give him moral support with the clown wig so he can kill some wolves a little bit faster.
Anyway, I decided to join my BDO friends since the PvP scene in that game was going to absolute dog water levels and it was bleeding out slowly like a fucking emo in a bathtub. And we needed a new home, so I followed them to the server Khazar in Throne and Liberty. Yeah, we heard this was where all the hardcore BDO players were going, so we were like, you know what, fuck it, let's do it for the memes. For a new player though, oh my god, this was a terrible fucking idea. I had no clue what I was doing and I was pretty much getting outpaced because I'm pretty sure like 90% of the players in Khazar had experience from Korea. And they were swiping. So, terrible time for me. Leveling in this game isn't super long. It's pretty much the tutorial and the rest of the game happens at max level. All the important stuff happens at max level. So you want to get there as quick as possible, really. I followed the guide from this guy called Little Fatty. It came in a Google Doc. My friend sent it to me. So, yeah. It took me around 5 hours to hit max level. If you don't and you kind of go in blind, you can get lost, so it can take you a little bit longer than that. I mean, I think it's safe to say that you can nearly double that leveling speed if you don't follow a guide. So if you're completely new, just follow a guide, save yourself the headache. That's going to be a recurring theme in this game, at least so far. So yeah, I hit max level at day 2 of early access. Day 1 was pretty much spent trying to log in and crashing every 2 minutes when I did manage to log in. And then I proceeded to swipe the level pack and the battle pass, which is, let me show you how much that is. It costs 500 lucent and 500, so 1,000 lucent overall, which is around £16, you know, £17. Pardon me. This is a seasonal one. This wasn't available at the start. Yeah, this is the first one that we've had, so. Anyway, the battle pass basically gave you can't see it anymore, but it basically gives you a bunch of freebies that actually, you know, speeds up your progression by quite a heavy margin. Same goes with the leveling pass. As you can see, you can get purple skill books and purple growth stones, which is huge at the start of the game. You know, especially when you're just starting, I highly recommend buying the battle pass and the leveling pack because, you know, you can just get that initial boost in resources, right? I ended up going with the bog standard mage assassin class and went staff dagger because I was a sword main in BDO, so I was like, you know what, let's play something kind of similar. Again, I followed the build guide by a streamer called Dank RNG at the time, and during the early stages of this game, I'm pretty sure there was a ton of misinformation, or at least just shit builds going around because there was an influx of, I guess, creators, quote unquote, that were trying to guide people, but they had no clue what they were talking about, or they were bad players from Korea with a year of experience, and they thought that they could make guides on how to play classes. Which, you know, not to be toxic, but after my 2.5 months of playing this game, and I watched a video of a guy talking about why you shouldn't play one dagger in tier 2, and just comparing how he played the game and comparing like the logic of his build, even though he had the year access in Korea, I was like, bro, there is no way you should be making a guide on why people should not play this class. Should or should not, you know? Anyway, not to be toxic, but yeah, be careful as a new player of like terrible builds, you know, ask around, cross-reference with other people, other players, what build they're running, and ask them why they're running. I'll try and provide, you know, some links in the future to notable creators, or fuck it, I might even leak some guild builds, who knows, but we leave that for now. It is super important, especially when you're just starting out the game, to kind of get the right build, because it's not so bad now because Lucent prices have dropped considerably, but back then prices on traits and everything was super fucking expensive, so making a mistake with your gear choice would really fuck you over, especially if you committed hard into it. Anyway, back to the story. I was initially in a guild with my BDO friends, but we were all new and we were all trying to figure out the game, and eventually a lot of them started quitting because the combat system was completely different. You know, Throne and Liberty is a tab targeting MMO, whereas BDO is a action MMO, almost like a fighting game, to be honest. And just in general, the game felt super clunky. Targeting was shit at the time. Movement was and still is pretty janky. Like I said, they fixed the targeting. Back then, the issue with targeting was that you could only select your target after you let go of the left mouse button, rather than on click, which caused a delay and you'd literally miss clicking the target that you wanted to click on. It was fucked. While they were all quitting, I decided to stick it out, and I ended up finding a guild with the same name as another guild that I played with in BDO called Nixx. I asked if they were the same guild and if they were recruiting, and surely enough, they were, so they took me in. If you played in Khazar in the first few weeks of launch, you know how much of a shit show the PvP scene was on this game. And I think this was the case with pretty much any popular servers. I think Chernobog is the equivalent in NA, but in Khazar there was the Sin Alliance, which I think had 8 guilds. And I think they were still allied up as well with Orca, which was one of the best PvP guilds in BDO Europe. And they also had an alt guild because there were like a ton of people wanting to join them, right? So I think that was like a total of 10 guild alliance. Not 100% sure on that, don't fucking crucify me. I think it was between 8 to 10 guilds. And then with Nixx had 2 guilds, and I think they were allied as well with Pirate Gaming. So it was an 8, I don't know how many guilds Pirate Gaming had, but it was pretty much an 8 versus 4, I guess. And yeah, the PvP was just a huge fucking zerg fest. It was an absolute shit show. Now, trying to learn the game in this environment while also trying to keep up with the whales and people with a year of knowledge and experience from Korea, I pretty much set myself up for a terrible fucking time with the game, a terrible first impression, and I literally almost quit because of it, because I was getting burnt out. I felt like I couldn't keep up. The prices were too fucking expensive. It was just a bad time. But, you know, I didn't give up, and around this time, the official launch came, and that's where I decided to make a new character over in Penance and completely just start over before I sank more time and resources into this early access character. Again, I heard Penance was the server where quite a few PvP guilds were going, and, you know, since PvP was something I wanted to do, I was like, alright, why not? Also, in my head, I thought that, you know, this is the general release, right? This is where all the plebs finally get to play for free. So surely the pay to win and the prices won't be as crazy as the early access server with all the whales, right? And surely enough, holy shit, everything was half the fucking price as they were in Khazar. It was nuts, because if I did decide to swipe, you know, it won't be as expensive. But like I said, I didn't swipe too hard, so, you know. What I didn't know at the time that I wish I knew now was that Lucent balance is account wide. So any Lucent that I made over in Khazar, I could also use on Penance. And the great thing about this is it's shared across regions as well. So if I was in NA with all the whales, right? A lot of people pay to win in NA. I could milk them, make a ton of Lucent, and use that Lucent to funnel my characters in EU. I didn't do this. I know a couple smart players that did do it. They made tens of thousands of Lucent, some even 100,000 Lucent. Just milking people in early access servers and across regions. So yeah, I didn't really do this until a couple months in, like I think the second month in or the first month in, where prices had already dropped by quite an amount. But you also had to play alts to do this, and I just wasn't bothered, and I didn't have time like that to be playing 3 different characters just to make Lucent. Anyway, I hit level 50 again in Penance, ended up buying the Battle Pass and everything pack again as well. And this was when I started looking at the guild rankings to see if there were any that were recruiting at the top, right? This was where I contacted Hands of Unity if they needed players, and I told them I was playing 1 dagger at this time, which was something that they needed. Luckily enough as well, the guild leader Relic was good friends with Etsu, who was the guild leader of Nixx. And he basically told me that if I fit in at Nixx, I'd pretty much fit in at HOU, right? When I joined the guild Discord as well, I saw that they had a bunch of players from Mythic, which was another guild that I played with in BDO. So HOU was pretty much, you know, home to me. I was familiar with a lot of the players here already as well. So it's pretty chill. Now, I know it sounds a lot like nepotism on to how I got into these top guilds, and I can't lie, it certainly helps if you know people that are already in top guilds. But because this was my first time playing this game, I still had to show them that I, you know, like my skill level and kind of, I know what the fuck I'm doing to a general degree, right? I can't just be a complete fucking potato, right? Like I still have to show them, yeah, like I know how to fucking play MMOs and how to PvP in them. I know how to position and stuff like that, right? Some classes are in more demand, so, you know, if you're applying to like top guilds and you play certain classes, you might have some more leeway on whether the guild accepts you or not. And this was kind of the case for me. I played 1 dagger, right? Which fills this very niche role in PvP. And if you don't play this right, or at least at a high caliber, you can be so fucking useless, right? Like, if you don't do that one thing that you're supposed to do, you're like, there's better classes, right, that do what you do if you don't do what you do right. Especially if you don't have Tevent Wand. I know some people want to play 1 dagger as like a damage dealer, but if you don't have Tevent Wand, which is like the best one in the game, and it's really hard to get and it's super expensive if you want to buy it, your damage is hindered by a lot. A lot of your damage comes from the Tevent Wand. Now, to keep it real, I'm not gonna fucking like gloss over shit. I fucking sucked at 1 dagger in the beginning, because I just didn't know how to play it. Like I was still getting used to the game mechanics. So I re-rolled to Staff Dagger, and you know, I wasn't the best, but you know, I was like pulling my weight, right? I was like, I think I went from, you know, not ranking at all in kills to I think rank 47. I think I peaked at within like 3 days of playing Staff Dagger. You know, I have no screenshots with this, so you're just gonna have to believe me. You're just gonna have to fucking believe me. I'll be real though, this class is boring as fuck for me, and I just ended up going back to 1 dagger and pretty much just learned the role. And guys, hey, now I low-key pop off, you know what I mean? Like, compilation coming soon and shit. They even gave me a Tevin one for it, so I think I'm doing something right here, you know what I mean? I also made like a fucking degenerate PowerPoint presentation on why they should give it to me, but we don't talk about that.
You wanna do a funny?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Alright.
Oh, that's a bomb.
They're moving.
Oh, yeah, they're tailed behind.
Bomb and a half, though.
Yeah, you
That's
see
a
this?
bomb
You
and
see
a
on me? You see on me? You see where Skull is right now?
Yeah?
Yeah, send it.
That's left in there, that's left in there, that's left in there.
Giving you blast points?
Oh my
Oh,
god.
go deeper, look deeper.
Yeah, I'm pulling out, I need to heal.
Okay.
I bet we got some.
I killed 5. So I think it was worth.
Kenza probably got some as well.
There was such a massive sleep, holy, for the chat.
Face does.
It just dropped it.
So yeah, if you are in a hardcore guild, you are kind of required, especially in the trial phase, if you just joined, you're kind of required to record your gameplay to prove, or at least to show what you're doing, right? And, you know, to show management, I guess, or like the guild leaders or the officers that you're at a certain skill level. Obviously, if I sucked, which I did, And if I didn't re-roll to Staff Dagger and actually did more as Staff Dagger, you know, I wouldn't have made it in the guild. I wouldn't have been kept. Is it elitist? Yeah, sure, but again, this is a hardcore guild, right? If you're not of, you know, if you're not a good player, that's fine. If you can't keep up with the schedule, that's fine. You know, just means the guild isn't for you. You don't have to play with this guild, right? There's plenty of other guilds out there as well. This is going to be an issue though, but I'll get onto that in the stuff that I dislike about this game. Anyway, Penance basically became another Zergfest guild, so it was boring as fuck. We weren't having fun. And we decided to transfer off. The new server that we joined had no alliances, so it was every guild for themselves, which was fucking amazing, and honestly how this game should be. It's literally where the game truly shines. It's a lot more fun because the world bosses in this game are really fucking small, right? It can't accommodate the mega alliances that consist of like 280 players each, right? Now imagine there's 3 or 4 of those on your server, right? That's like 1,000 fucking players, not including the smaller solo guilds in a tiny boss arena. It's just not a fun time for anyone. Fuck it, I'll touch on to this now, but Mega Alliance fights pretty much come down to whoever has more flash waves or bow users, right? Because bow is probably one of the most broken weapons in this game. I know everyone complains about greatsword, but Jesus fucking Christ, bow is disgusting, right? It has the skill flash wave, which is a massive AoE that does a ton of damage, and it puts a heal over time on allies that stacks with other flash waves. So a lot of these Zerg guilds have like 50 flash waves in their guild. Now imagine all that damage. You can reset that flash wave, by the way, and use it immediately after. They also have access to a big AoE tornado that moves forward and knocks up everyone that gets hit by it. Right? Now, 280 per alliance, that's 4 guilds. Imagine each of those guilds has like 40 bow users. You know what I mean? That's 160 flash waves. You're literally playing in traffic. You're not going to play the game. Especially in these tiny boss arenas. It's not a good time. Like, I spoke to a member of Orca recently, and they told me, I think they had around 70 bow users spread across the 2 guilds that they have. Right? So imagine a mega alliance that has 4 guilds, or even 8 guilds. It's fucking stupid. Anyway, back to the story. The server that we moved to was basically an every guild for themselves state for a good 2-ish months. Around the first siege time though, I did take a break from the guild because of real life commitments. So I did miss out on the first siege event. I don't have footage of that, but Hands of Unity ended up attacking the castle, taking it from Reborn, and they got the first Legion title on the server. I did join the guild shortly afterwards again, before this title was handed out, so I basically got the title for free without really having to do anything for it, but you know, don't pay attention to that. Also, I've heard some people say that Siege is only for the top 10 guilds. This is completely wrong. This is straight up false information. It doesn't matter now, but the first ever Siege, basically because the game launched with a milestone system that unlocked content over time, the first owner of the Siege was decided by who was the rank 1 guild. And obviously, everyone else can attack them, and whoever takes the castle from them is obviously going to be the owners of the Siege for the next Siege, which was 2 weeks later. Now, after the first siege event, the other guilds who weren't as good at PvP or just didn't have that many numbers, they decided to form up an alliance and pretty much zerg down all the PvP world bosses, which, outside of Siege, was the main source of PvP that this game had at the time. Obviously, this started some drama which led to the top 4 guilds, which was Hands of Unity, Reborn, Crown in Darkness, and WoW, to form 2 alliances. And this was basically the descent of the server becoming another shit show of a Zergfest. Yeah, the backline is completely fucked. But yeah, like I said, the PvP world bosses was pretty much at the time the only large-scale PvP events available outside of the nighttime PvP and open world dungeons, which wasn't really large-scale. It works best with like 24 people, which is like 3 parties. And Siege, which, you know, now happens every 2 weeks after the first one, and the tax event, which, to be honest, is just a bit of a shit show. We do have a server Discord as well, and at the time we tried to, you know, come to a compromise so that everyone gets PvP, right? So in prime times in this game, which is 7 PM UK, there would at least be, I think, 2 or 3 bosses that are PvP enabled. So what we decided on was the top 4 guilds would pick one boss to fight over, while everyone else would fight over the other bosses. So that way everyone has some sort of PvP for at least an hour in the game, right? Now, this was all before the PvE Zerg Alliance. It was going well, but the PvE Zerg Alliance decided to form up and ruin the PvP for everyone, because they would just kill the PvP bosses that the smaller guilds were fighting over, and that would cause everyone else to come to the guild, to the PvP world boss that the top 4 guilds were fighting over. So it just became an absolute shit show. Now, the guild that started this PvE Alliance is called Ascendancy. I'm just leaving this here now because it plays a part in the future of the story. Also, I don't think I'm biased when I say that small scale guild versus guild, or like every guild for themselves, is the best way to play this game, because a lot of people are fucking complaining on Throne and Liberty Discord and even on YouTube, right? If you watch a lot of reviews from for Throne and Liberty, like, this is, a lot of people hate this shit. Like, getting zerged down by 280 people is not a fun experience. There's no skill expression at that point too. But in a sense, I do kind of understand why the smaller or weaker guilds with not as good PvPers would want to be in these mega alliances, I guess, because like, again, if you're bad and you're on your own and you just get stomped by one other guild, you know, if you can't beat them evenly, you know, fucking outnumber them, I guess, is the mentality, right? Now, I have spoken to some solo guilds, the not super hardcore ones, at least on our server, and they don't actually mind being solo, but obviously, ideally, you know, if they were going to be solo, they'd rather have everyone else be solo as well. Even though, you know, I like respect to them for playing this game as a solo guild when there's like a fucking mega alliance. Now, fast forward to the second siege. I actually made it this time. We were defending it as a 2-man alliance from the rest of the server, and this was fucking great. This was my first experience with the siege, and before it, I thought that playing one dagger would be pretty fucking boring, but it was actually really fun. Even though, like, my team, or like my party, was on sewer duty as the bomb squad for like the first 10 minutes. Jeez, fuck is wrong with me today? First 10 to 15 minutes. When the enemy got into the castle, when the wall started breaking down, right, and it started descending into chaos, it was a lot of fun, you know. We were trying to coordinate as well as we could, and it was great. There's a big group coming in on 6. Crow, do you have this? Crow. Look at 6.
20 seconds, 20
Ah,
seconds.
fuck, alright. Whatever. They all slept anyway.
Felix, jump down.
Keep me alive if you can.
They're all delayed, they're all stuck on 6. We pushed them out of 6.
On the gate.
Oh shit, okay.
I'm trying to
holding back.
try to help Faith.
Wanna spin on this crowd? Do you have spin?
Yeah.
Just wait, Dodo. I'm
Go!
Asher on me.
Fucking huge! Holy shit. Holy shit. Okay, that was good. I haven't attacked the castle, so I can't really speak out on what that experience is like, but defending is so much fun. So shortly after this win, a 4-man alliance from Penance, actually, decided to come over to our server. So it was BeMyFrag, Greed that had 2 guilds, and Quintessence. Now, this mega alliance started talking shit on our server. The guild leader of BeMyFrag had this to say on our server Discord. And the following day, we got a taste of what this mega alliance had to offer, and they were absolute dog shit. They just got rolled straight on the world bosses, and yeah, we could see that they just weren't organized at all. The funniest part of this is that even the guild leader of Ascendancy, the guild that started the PvE Alliance, who is in no way near a top performing PvP guild, they even said that this new alliance was trash, which is extra funny because they decided to join this mega alliance after Quintessence disbands a couple days after transferring over to our server. Granted, of all the guilds in this new mega alliance, Greed is actually a really good guild on their own. They're the biggest challenge that we have in GvG so far compared to the rest of the guilds that we've fought. And yeah, they're actually a really good solo guild. Anyway, we knew playing as a 2-man guild alliance wouldn't be any fun against this mega alliance. So the top 4 guilds initially on our server, again, Hand of Unity, Reborn, Woe, and Crown in Darkness, we all just decided to join up and form our own mega alliance. And now the server is a fucking zergfest once again. Like I said before, zerging isn't fun at all for anyone in these world bosses. So collectively as an alliance, we kind of just decided to either not show up for them since none of our players were having fun. And at the end of the day, you know, that is our top priority. But also because we were hitting that point where we didn't really need gear from these world bosses. So we didn't mind just not doing them at all. But sometimes we would also just zerg them down just to fucking deny content from the Mega Alliance that transferred over. And this pretty much ruined the World Boss PvP on our server. Luckily though, the following week, wargames were introduced, which pretty much satiated, you know, that PvP itch that we wanted the game for. Wargames is basically, you can create your own lobbies and set the amount of teams that you want and just GvG it out, you know. You could be 1v1, 1v1v1, or, you know, just 1v1v1v1, you know, so you could do whatever you want in it. And this would stop the Mega Alliance PvP that would fucking occur in these world bosses. It was an instance game mode, so this was great. Great change to the game. So what would happen is we'd set up GvGs with other top guilds in different servers at the time of these PvP world bosses, because we knew that this is when, you know, players would be most active. So what would happen is we just zerg down these PvP world bosses and just go to our GvGs, which does sound fucked up for the rest of the server, but hey, this is what happens when you have a fucking Mega Alliance that comes to your server and tries to kill content, right? We were having a great time as, you know, every guild for themselves, but this Mega Alliance decides to come in, talk shit, so now this is what happens. Also, on a side note, if you are a small guild or like a guild looking to get better at PvP, I highly recommend organizing GvGs in these wargames. Even if you know that the other guild's better than you, or even if you know that you guys are new to PvP, this is still a much better learning experience and just a better PvP experience than going to these world bosses, right? Because if you go to these world bosses as a small solo guild that don't have PvP experience or have very little PvP experience, you're essentially going to waste your time because you're going to get run over, and you probably won't even get loot from the boss because you can't get contribution because the guild's just going to kill you over and over again. So highly recommend just trying to set up GvGs. I don't know if it exists yet, but I'll try and make a Discord where guild leaders can set this up.
Okay, I actually have spin for this big clump. Do anyone else has anything?
Where are you looking? Just up?
I'm looking at they're coming on the choke.
Yeah, okay, I'm looking at choke too. I'm looking at choke too. Doors up.
Yep, you're being pushed. We're gonna be
I'm giving you everything, Helix.
Yeah, I killed 20 people.
Yeah, huge.
We killed the summon guys.
Nice.
I went from 35 to 55 kills.
God damn.
So now fast forward over to the third siege, which was going to be our first siege as an alliance together against the new Mega Alliance, plus the rest of the server. And to be honest, it was a pretty easy fucking win. Not to be too toxic, but we went full shit talk mode after the siege because really and truly, you know, how are you gonna come over to a server, claim to assert dominance, you know, with so much ego, saying that, you know, how you play the game is how it's supposed to be played, and then, you know, you proceed to be absolute dog shit at how you play the game and get completely rolled. Normally we're not so toxic, you know what I mean? I know there's like an image of top guilds being super toxic, but we try not to be. But keep in mind, like, these guys came into the server talking shit, and in the siege they used this exploit where they got the golem to the top of the castle that can't be reached at all, and they spawned a resurrection stone up there, so we couldn't kill the resurrection stone, and they would just use that to spawn on top of the castle over and over again, and they still lost while they were exploiting, you know? And I know I'm probably gathering some bad karma here and we'll probably lose soon, but fuck it, you know, why not? Live in the moment. Now, as of writing this, we have owned the castle all 3 times from official launch. We won once attacking and had 2 successful tower defenses, so, you know, HOU on top. Currently, we're asking other guilds for 1v1 GvGs since we're tired of the Wild Boss Zergfest while we wait for Siege every 2 weeks. We're basically filling in the days with Riftstone and Boonstone fights and trying to set up as much GvGs. We asked BMF, you know, for a GvG, and the guild lead, the guy that was, you know, talking shit on our server Discord, had this to say about it. pretty funny actually, because we had a Riftstone fight against them recently, and that's where you've been watching this entire background, and seeing their performance as a solo guild kind of says why they're in favor of these mega alliances, because these guys are terrible as a solo guild. For some reason, they decided to drop all their DPS on one tiny spot, making it so easy for us to sleep them and just blow them up with our crossbows and star fuses. So yeah, there you go. Now that has been my timeline with Throne and Liberty so far. I am currently sitting at 4,256 gear score, got my arc boss weapons, everything's max traded. I have like alternate gear sets that I can switch around. And yeah, now I'm just enjoying chilling PvPing whenever I can. But yeah, now I'm going to talk about what I like and dislike about the game. So if you've been waiting for this, here you go. These are also in no particular order, by the way, so I'm just going to put them down as whatever came into my head. So first of all, I love the fact that this game is so heavily guild focused, right? With the emphasis on that community aspect. I know some people don't like this, but I honestly think that MMOs shine the best when you play with other players and if you play with them regularly. I know a lot of MMOs nowadays, I feel, have made that social aspect almost secondary or sometimes even irrelevant. But Throne and Liberty actually puts emphasis on playing together and, in addition, being coordinated in pretty much every aspect of the game. There's so many rewards and positives for being in a guild that it pretty much entices people to join one and take part in that larger community, you know? Being in a guild pretty much opens up a lot of the game to you that you won't have access to as a solo player.
We just need to win that fight against AFC. That shouldn't be too hard.
Just to highlight some of the bonuses of being in a guild, I guess the big one would be the guild bosses. It's basically world bosses, but only for your guild. So that increases the chances of you guys getting loot every week. And, you know, depending on how your guild distributes this guild loot, you know, it can be allocated to the players that need it. Or you could pick it up and claim it yourself and then sell it into the auction house. I don't know. It varies from guild to guild. You also do get access to a guild vendor that sells you trait conversion stones, which is super fucking useful because you need this if you have a bad roll on, like, let's say a really expensive item, let's say like a bloodlust belt or an arc boss weapon, and you want to change that trait. You don't want to spend the loot on trying to buy the trait that you want to change that bad trait away from. So let's say I got mana regen on my tevent one, but I need cooldown reduction. Yeah, I will use the trait conversion stones to try and gamble that out instead of buying another tevent one. Now, the benefits of being in a guild becomes more apparent once you start doing PvP content in this game. Throne and Liberty isn't really a game where one player can 1v10 a whole group. Maybe at the start of the game where no one had gear, crossbow players could spin to win and wipe an entire guild. But now that everyone's got some gear, now that, you know, the playing field has kind of evened out in terms of stats, it's not really the case anymore, and playing well as a group and in extension playing well as a guild is now more important than ever if you want to be somewhat competitive.
Yeah, I'm turning off.
Okay, let's go.
I'm looking here.
Okay, I'm looking further of boss,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
backline.
I see.
Are you ready?
Okay, ready, push it.
Yeah.
There was up on top. Everyone's sleeping.
Hey, everybody, fucking there. I'm pushing off of me.
I'm trying to keep it up, Ash.
Oh, shit.
Probably dead.
Ash was up.
Walk the man.
Fucking slept the whole way. That was fucking...
Couple of tanks on the stairs.
Some rivals are
We're
going
looking.
up.
Okay, we can start moving out. We can start moving out. We have like 70 to 80% of the rate here. There's a few people raining down from the trees as well, and from the rock. Yeah, we need to get up the ramp. We need to get up the ramp.
I can sleep on top of the ramp.
We need to look.
I'll go for a
ramp.
sleep on.
Look top
They
ramp.
slept on top of the ramp. They slept on top of the ramp.
Oh my god, there's a lot of people here. If we can look top ramp, that's gonna be huge. And just play it very slow and hold this position. Torben in front. There's a lot of people in front.
In devotion.
Yeah, clear everything out in front of us.
More on the left here.
There's a spin inside of us. We actually should be going to the right, I think, although I want to get a little bit of contribution at least on Adentus. Look on Adentus and be ready to take any fight that comes towards us. We're holding like the middle of the arena.
Reborn is in the
Basically this
grapple spot.
position. If we can look for anything on Reborn.
I can look for sleep on 5.
Yeah. Just stall at the low.
I can go
I'm going in, I'm going in, I'm going in.
Yeah, okay. Then commit.
Okay, now grind.
The slap.
Boss cancelled spin.
Unlucky.
Keep going there.
Get flash rate from behind it.
Just hold this position. Just keep going. Don't go further than this though. Don't go further than this. Pull back a little bit. Pull back a little bit. We have a few people in the back. Just get back. We pretty much won that push. There's the entire rivals group and ongoing on that side. Get back to ramp. Get all the way back to ramp. As quick as you can. Back to ramp. Otherwise we're gonna get sandwiched from everywhere. Back to ramp.
Let's spin for this.
I have sleep and turn for
Yes.
ongoing.
Be patient.
5 seconds for sleep.
Yeah, there's a fuckload of people.
I'm going in for sleep, yeah.
Once, okay, they're coming.
Yeah.
Be ready. Look for a sleep.
The slap.
Get ready.
The slap.
Yeah, go. Look for it. Look for that choke right in front of us. Any flash we have?
I'm pulling.
Everything we have.
Coming up on 4. They're coming up on 4, okay. Let's fuck them up.
I can look on 4.
Look a
Look
little
for
on boss,
sleeper.
please, as well. Oh, there's a big group on 4, yeah. We need to look for...
Slap on 4. Big sleep on 4.
Yeah. Following up.
Yeah, we're coming out of hook. Watch out. They're trying to backline.
That's just staying there.
Actually, they're not coming in.
Now, for some reason, PvP in Throne and Liberty just feels a lot more rewarding compared to other MMOs that I've played so far. Especially in Siege, because Siege actually rewards you with Lucent if you win. That has been taxed from the auction house in the game. At least on your server. So, all the transactions that players have made on your server in the auction house pretty much goes to the castle, and whoever wins gets a cut of that Lucent amount. So there's actual, monetary gain to be had from playing in Siege. Now, on a minor narrative-ish side note, bear in mind I didn't pay attention to the story of this game, but the large-scale PvP, or just PvP in general in this game, actually feels like it belongs in the game world. It doesn't feel like a offshoot side note that was just kind of clipped on into the game to satisfy PvP players. It actually feels like there's a narrative reason for it being in the game. Like I said, I didn't pay attention to the story, so I don't know. There's probably someone else that recapped it and can explain this a lot better, but that's just my general feeling. It kind of gives that feeling of how classic WoW was, where your player character is just a pleb in the world. You're no one special. The issue that I had with like other MMOs, especially like Guild Wars, is that your player character was the commander, right? But every other player you play with and against is also the commander. So yeah, there was like that that inconsistency in the game world narrative. And yeah, that just made PvP feel like it shouldn't belong in the game, narrative wise anyway. Anyway, back to guilds. Now in PvE, obviously there's the guild bosses that give loot only to your guild. Finding a group is also going to be faster since you know who plays what, and if your guild is organized, they'll probably have a Discord where people can look for players and set up stat groups just like in PvP. Now for the normal 1-star and 2-star dungeons, there is a random group finder, so you can just quickly find a group to clear them using that. You don't necessarily need a guild for it, but being in a guild does make it easier because if you're new, right, and if you have no gear, you can still get kicked from this group, these random groups, if you don't know the mechanic, because a lot of players that queue this now kind of just speed run it. So yeah, if you're new and you're still learning, you can ask your guild members for help, or you can even ask them to carry you, bro. Like I'm pretty sure if you join a casual guild, they can carry you if they have geared players. Now, the main benefit of being in a guild for PvE is going to be for the dimensional trials. If you don't know what dimensional trials are, they're basically Mythic Plus from World of Warcraft, which basically means the dungeon gets harder and has more mechanics introduced the higher level that you go. So obviously communication and coordination is going to be important here. Being in a guild Discord chat is going to make that a whole lot smoother. You can use the party board to make a group with randoms to do the dimensional trials, but in general, that experience can be an absolute shit show, especially if you're new and sort of learning the dimensional trials, and if you're using an off-meta build. Now, there is a meta in Throne and Liberty, whether you like it or not, it does exist, and that is pretty much where a lot of the toxicity in this game stems from. If you say that there isn't a meta and, you know, you can play this game with whatever build you want, I mean, you can, but if you're new, you're probably going to be bad at the game and you won't have fun at all playing the random build that you cooked up with very little knowledge. It is what it is. There are these off-meta builds that work really well, but, you know, unless you're running like some weird fucking mix-up like SNS crossbow, chances are you probably won't get invited to these groups just because, you know, it's a general idea that your build does suck. And for the most part, it kind of will, because the meta is based on weapons that have good synergies with each other, right? There's a reason why the meta exists. Yeah, I get some people want to be different. There are off-meta builds that work, like I said, but for the most part, you know, people want to take what is known to be good. Now, the great thing is in PvE, you don't have to do the dimensional trials nowadays, because the main reason why this was a big deal and why it was almost a mandatory grind was because dimensional trials was the only way to get runes, which is basically extra stats for your character once you've kind of maxed all your gear and weapons out, right? But AGS actually listened to players and they made it so that you can get runes from open world dungeons now, and you can get them from world bosses, which include the guild bosses, and they just buffed the overall amount you get in general. Which does lead me on to the next thing that I like about this game, and is that the devs, at least so far, the devs actually listen to player feedback. You know, like with the dimensional trials that I just mentioned, AGS and NCSoft managed to increase drop rates and where you can get them within 2 weeks. So far, you know, they're doing pretty well. NCSoft did turn this game around from being an absolute failure into probably one of the most popular MMOs right now. So yeah, they do have a monthly series called Talks with Tico, I think, where they talk about what they're going to be trying to fix in the coming weeks or months. I think right now they're addressing the player burnout due to the current content loop, I guess, which I'll talk about later when I talk about things that I dislike. But like I said, AGS said they're working on it, so this could be completely irrelevant by the time this video comes out. Now for a very hot and spicy take, I actually like the pay to win in this game. Yeah, despite what people say, being able to buy like traits and power with Lucent, you know, the real world currency, I think is at the very least well implemented. Especially because of the fact that you can make Lucent in game, although now, you know, it's not as lucrative as it was in the early stages, because you know, prices have dropped down in general across the board for all items in the game, right? You know, the general player base can keep up and can catch up eventually over time to the people that whale out and max the gear within 2 weeks. You know, I could compare it similarly to Warframe, I guess, where you can buy platinum to buy mods for your weapons and Warframes and speed up the crafting process, and, you know, to increase their stats and stuff. But you can also earn that platinum from playing the game and selling the stuff that you got. Now, is the game paid to win? 100%. Yes, I'm not denying that, but it's not as disgustingly bad as people make it out to be. Especially at this stage of the game, new players can catch up a lot faster and a lot more easier, because like I said, the prices of the traits have gone down significantly compared to the beginning. Obviously, like the buying power that you can have is diminished. Like I said, prices have gone down. You'll probably do need to make an initial investment to get your gear going. But in all honesty, it's not that bad. Like, you can buy the gold pack, which is I think £86, and you'll be good. There's fucking single player games that have way worse monetization than this game. But I've also heard like free to play players that haven't spent anything at all, I just have gear as well. So it's not as badly pay to win as a lot of people make it out to be. Also, I think the majority of the players are around, I think, 3k gear score right now. I don't know the exact numbers. Maybe Amazon can release that in the future, because they did say that they are like planning to release content that is based on the average player gear score. But yeah, I think right now, you know, the average casual gamer is at around 3 to 3.3k gear score, which isn't hard to get at all. I'm pretty sure you can get near that with all blue gear that's been max traded, which is super cheap, by the way. But yeah, I think that because, you know, hardcore guilds right now are recruiting at, I think, 3.5k to 3.7k gear score. So yeah, I mean, I guess if they're recruiting at that range, I'm pretty sure the more casual are at like 3.3. Now, even though players can swipe for the highest possible stats in the game, because the game is so heavily guild focused, the impact that these individuals can have is pretty much negligible on their own, right? At the current state of the game, the highest power gain someone can spend real life money on is the arc boss weapons. But even then, you know, if they're not playing well as a group, if they're not playing well as a guild, they'll just get bodied. The impact that they can have on their own is very little unless they have a team playing around with them. Obviously, this doesn't apply to Dominion, right? Where I guess it's more, you play more on your own. There's not much emphasis on group play, but like a bad, or like, let's say even an average player who swiped a Bellendir staff, let's say, isn't magically gonna one-shot a group of 10 people because he threw £1,000 at Jeff Bezos. You know, he still needs to set up that situation. He still needs to be able to see that situation and coordinate with his party to, you know, target that group and, you know, be able to clear that group. I think collectively as a guild, I don't know if I'm allowed to leak this information, but I think we have around like 8 to 10 arc boss weapons, maybe a little bit more. But we have beat guilds that have way more than that, because some of these guilds have farmed like dead servers, and that just means they dominate the PvP arc boss fights, and they just get all the contribution and all the loot to themselves. And we've managed to beat them pretty fucking easily, right? I'll show some GvG footage up as well. But yeah, again, this goes back to the this goes back to why I love the emphasis on guild play and group play in this game, because even though there are whales, their impact can be completely negated just by playing well as a group or as a guild. Alright, well, now for the negatives. It is a grindy MMO. It's from a Korean developer, so you can expect that. It's not as bad compared to the likes of BDO, but the general gameplay loop right now is getting pretty stale. You kind of settle into your daily routine, you do your daily contracts, daily dungeon runs, you do your weekly contracts, and in turn you spend your open world dungeons, and then you go to kill world bosses when they spawn. You can stack up the tokens though, so you don't need to do them every day. You can wait a couple days and let your tokens stack a bit, and then you just blast through all of them in one day. If you're not PvPing, this gameplay loop can get boring pretty fast. Also, the game isn't super punishing when upgrading your gear. There's no regression in progress, there's no downgrading or, you know, losing your progress completely. If you do swipe, you guarantee that progress. You know, in BDO, if you swipe for cronstones, you're still gambling your progress, so you're not even fucking winning. If you swipe in this game, you are guaranteeing that. The only part where I'd say that the game is super grindy and unbearable was the rune system, which, you know, I did have a whole part scripted for shit talking the game because it was fucking trash, and a lot of players were complaining and quitting because of it. But, you know, like I said earlier, AGS heard the complaints and they made it a lot better. It's still a bit of a grind, but, you know, it's nowhere near as tedious as it was. As of writing this, they did say they are addressing the concern about the burnout from the game because of the monotonous daily chore list that players go through, and they're looking to make changes pretty soon, so let's hope for the best there. In regards to the dungeons, Korea actually already has a feature where you can spend multiple tokens at the end of one dungeon to get more loot. So this basically means like you have to this just means that you only have to do one dungeon a day instead of 3. Or, you know, if you're like me and you're capped in these tokens, you can spend all 4,500 points on one dungeon rather than having to do 10 tier 2s or 15 tier 1s, which is great, especially for the more casual players that don't have much time. You know, they're able to get more loot in less time, which means, you know, they catch up a lot faster. Another thing that I hate about the game is this mantle system. AGS or NCSoft, if you're watching this, please remove this, or at least give us the option to toggle it off. If you've played Throne and Liberty, and you've ever tried to jump up somewhere, or sometimes even just climbing hills, your character's just randomly gonna get stuck and refuse to move where you want them to. I'm 90% sure, or like 95% sure, that this is because of the mantle system, because it forces your character to go into this climbing animation whenever it comes in contact with, let's say, an elevated platform. What will happen is that you're going to input your character to go to a specific direction, but the auto mantle feature, quote unquote, is going to latch your character onto that ledge. And then you're basically going to fight this feature every time you do that. And that just results in this buggy movement where, you know, it fucks people over in PvP. Alright, another feature in this game that I want to see, I guess, removed, is the feud and interest list. I guess the marking system and astral vision. If you don't know what this is, in this game you can mark certain players as feuds or as interests, right? And what would happen is you can use the astral vision, which basically scans for players around you. You could set this so that it only highlights feuded and interested players. So when you do this, and let's say I have a couple targets here that's feud and interest, they would all show up on this table. Now you can even set so that you can tab target only to these feuded targets. So let's say I'm targeting an NPC right now, right? I'm pressing tab, and this error comes up saying there's no targets that matches the priority. This is because my current tab target list only prioritizes people in my feud and interest. So what would happen is I could just feud or add DPS to my interest list, and whenever I use astral vision and tab target, I'll target them straight away. Now this sucks for assassin type players, right, or just high value DPS players, because what would happen is it becomes so easy to target them. Like, let's say for me, my job is to stealth into a group and put them to sleep, right? Now what would happen is I'll go stealth, right? I'm chilling, and then when I head out of stealth, someone could just press tab and they'll immediately target me and hit me with the CC, right? It completely negates the fact, or like at least the gameplay of an assassin, where you're supposed to be sneaky and get into these good positions to kill people. It feels shit when your whole role gets negated by someone just pressing tab and using a CC. You know, like there's no skill involved. Like they don't even need to target you immediately. They could just be spamming tab as soon as you pop up, throw a CC out, and you're fucked. You know, your whole role is negated because of that. The game does have a fix around this already, but it only takes place on Siege and the tax event, where you don't see enemy player names, and because of that, your feud list won't work at all. Instead, enemy players have like red 1 2 3 4 or something like that as their name, and the difference in gameplay quality, as you know, as a stealth assassin class or even just a DPS in general, is fucking insane. Like, you actually get to play the game, you get to do what you need to do, and you just don't get instantly CC'd the second you step out of stealth. This auto targeting just kind of ruins the gameplay aspect of certain classes. Alright, now for the big one. I'm pretty sure no one in this game likes mega alliances. Like, I'm sure a ton of the player base agrees with me when I say this, that mega alliances are terrible for the game. It reduces the PvP to an unplayable clusterfuck, and there's no skill involved at all when it comes to this into the mega alliance fights. People are already complaining as well that there's no skill expression in this game due to the rock paper scissors type of balance approach that they chose to do, where you can only trait for 2 of the 3 damage types. So, you know, you're bound to be killed by someone, right? But yeah, even this goes out the fucking window when there's like 90 flash waves just blasting you from across the screen. Yeah, like, it reduces large scale PvP to just who has more flash waves, who has more bows, and like I said earlier, the boss arenas in this game are way too small, you know, to be accommodating such large numbers. I think the only reason why mega alliances should, I mean, you don't even need a mega alliance to win Siege, but yeah, that's probably like the only area where these large alliances kind of make sense. But even then, you know, like, we've won Siege as a 2 guild alliance. I think there's other guilds that have won it as well. I think Orc has won their sieges with just 2 guilds. Like, you don't need 4 guilds to play this game. I just propose that we just remove alliances completely. You know, like, that would be fucking sick. Like, the amount of fun that we had on Elea when it was just a every guild for themselves scenario, that was probably the best time that we've had. Even the 2 guild alliance was kind of pushing it. I say just remove alliances completely, or at least cap it to 2, or decrease the amount of players in a guild. Put it back down to 50 instead of 70, and then cap the alliances to 2 guilds. Also introduce the siege name feature in these world boss PvP events. Make that a global thing, so there's no scheming to form like unofficial alliances, you know? I mean, they're still gonna do it because of Discord and like third parties, but yeah, with how uncoordinated some of these mega alliances look, yeah, I don't think they'll be capable of doing that if there's, you know, if they can't see each other's names. Also, another feature that I would like to see in this game, it's more of a, you know, like just an RP element. It's not really to do with gameplay, but if they could introduce a transmog system in this game, like how it is in World of Warcraft or even Guild Wars 2, like that would be so good, right? Because there's a ton of armor pieces in this game that look great. You see in all the promotional images for the game, but reality is these pieces don't get seen because they're barely used in any of the endgame builds, especially the green and blue gear, which I think has some of the best looking pieces, right? Like what I'm wearing right now is a green piece of armor. You know, but it still looks good. It still looks good, you know. It feels like it's missed out on. Like, this is what my full set looks like with all my end game gear, right? Nothing makes sense. It's a bit of a mess, you know. My cloak has my guild emblem on it. It looks goofy as fuck. So yeah, if they could also give us a feature to hide the guild emblem on the logo, that would be amazing. Look at this green piece of gear, you know, like you could do so much work with that. Like there's a ton of blue ones as well that look really good. Not having a transmog feature, honestly, it kind of just, it feels like they wasted the art department's effort to, you know, make all these nice looking pieces of armor for it to basically go unused and unseen, you know, where, you know, I mean, why not make their work be visible when you could just introduce a transmog system in the game? You know, instead we're stuck using these costumes that we have to buy with Lucent. It kind of, it'll probably, I mean, yeah, it's 100% gonna add more like individuality and like, you know, more variety into the game's aesthetics, because nowadays everyone just runs the same costumes. You know, it gets pretty boring pretty quickly. Also, now that we've gotten wargames, we have access to the scoreboards, and these scoreboards display the damage and healing done as well as the damage taken. Now, since we know that they're able to get that information, it would be great if we could have a live built-in DPS meter, or at least enable third-party add-ons to do that. You know, so we can accurately measure like the effectiveness of builds, right? This, I feel like this is great because it's just going to give us more transparency and data to both players and the devs, to better help, you know, tweak numbers for buffs and nerfs, especially in PvE, because right now PvE, bow is way too dominant of a weapon, right? I guess in both PvE and PvP. Like, flash wave as a skill is disgusting because it can damage and heal and reduce I think the hit chance of targets if you take the specialization for it. You know, bow can also reduce the cooldown on the majority of skills with deadly marker for their whole party, and if you run multiple bows in one party, the deadly marker stacks, so basically no one has cooldowns. And the funny thing is, you can reset the cooldown of deadly marker with blitz, so you can stack 2 deadly markers on one target. So let's say you have 5 bows in one party, that's 10 deadly markers. Yeah, no one has cooldowns. It's like, bow is just way too strong of a weapon right now, and you know, because they're able to stack bows in parties, a lot of other classes just basically get overlooked and ignored because, you know, no bow, no bitches, as I think Grenton said it, right? Like, it is just way too strong of a weapon. It needs to get significantly nerfed in its capabilities. Like, if you're gonna have deadly marker as an option, at least don't make it so that you can have 10 of them stacked on the boss, right? Make it so that you can only have 1 deadly marker active, you know? Like, it's so dumb that one weapon is this dominant. I also forgot to mention that Deadly Marker also reduces the cooldown of itself, right? So you can Deadly Marker, auto attack the boss or use heals on the boss, and that would reduce the cooldown on Deadly Marker. Like, if you don't see how stupid this is, then you're probably terrible at the game. I'm so sorry, but yeah, like, it's such a dumb skill. Now, speaking of war games, I think it'd be great if we did have rewards for war games and just small scale PvP in general. I think TNL would benefit greatly if NCSoft stole pretty much the battleground system queue, the battleground queue system from World of Warcraft, or pretty much every other MMO that has battlegrounds. You know, I don't see why they introduced war games but not a random war game queue. Players can either queue solo or queue as a full party of 6, and then it would be, let's say, like a 24 versus 24. You know, you could queue as a pre-made of 6 players, like I said, as one party, and then, you know, you'd get another 18 random players on your team, and then you'll just fight it out in, like, let's say, a Boonstone or a Riftstone fight. You know, that would be great. Like, they could have a capture the flag, or even like a conquest type game mode, you know? Like, I don't see why they don't do that already. Like, they have it with the Boonstone and Riftstone fights, like I said, where you have to capture a stone and hold it to win, right? I don't see why they don't just do that, but modify it so that with these Boonstone and Riftstone fights, there's 3 Boonstones, you know, and then you capture them and they generate points for your team, and then, you know, obviously after a team hits X amount of points, they win. I don't see why they can't implement this feature in the game. Yeah, it seems like such an easy implementation that would solve the small scale issue that a lot of people want in the game, especially because these mega alliances are ruining everything. I think this would be such a great feature to add for the health of the game. And they could even introduce like a rank feature for it, right? I don't see why not. Where players can queue as a guild, you know, as a group of 24, queue up for it to fight other guilds, you know. That way we can have, like, I mean, I guess we could do that already as a, you know, custom game, but yeah, it'd be good to get actual rewards for doing the small scale PvP, you know. Like, let's say, you know, a rank 1 guild just completely dominates everything, they get rewards for it, you know. Give reasons for players, yeah, give an incentive for players to strive to be the rank 1 guild, you know, outside of Siege. Now, I did cook up a little, you know, a little idea for Castleton being turned into a random into a conquest battleground type game, where you know, there'll be three areas in Castleton, which is the plaza, the market, and I guess the Memorial Hall or the Castleton Arena. But the Castleton Arena is a bit fucky. I feel like that would be a bad place to have a point to capture. But basically, this triangle of the market, the plaza, and the Memorial Hall, you know, players can fight over those areas for control. I guess 24 versus 24 would be a good size. I think that'd be great for the game. Obviously, I'm not game dev, so listen, they can figure out how to do that how they want. But yeah, I mean, if I could think of that, bro, like, what are these devs doing, man? Like, it'd be such a good game mode. I don't see why it's not implemented already. Like, you have the map, you have the world for it. Just, are they creatively bankrupt? Like, what's going on? Anyway, that is the video done. This probably went on for way too fucking long. I have no clue how long this has been, but I'll probably re-edit the last part and just re-upload it as its own separate video, just so it acts as a constructive feedback rather than just me ranting for God knows how long. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll be making more videos about this game as a One Dagger, because I realized there isn't really much creators out there that make content for One Dagger aside from Vexed and a couple others. But yeah, hopefully this game strives in the future, because it is a great game. Yeah, I just want it to get better. So enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see in the future too. So yeah, that is it. Goodbye.